The nation's top leader takes action on gun control. Good evening, this is CTV News. I'm Byron Scott. Well, President Obama issued an executive order aimed at restricting illegal gun sales in America. Surrounded by victims of gun violence and at times becoming emotional, the president made his remarks this morning in the East Room of the White House. The package includes 10 provisions. One would require more gun sellers to be licensed and to force them to conduct background checks on potential buyers. Another calls on the FBI to hire more than 200 additional examiners to expand background checks 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The president says he's taking matters into his own hands because of inaction on the part of Congress.
And the constant excuses for inaction no longer do, no longer suffice. That's why we're here today. Not to debate the last mass shooting, but to do something to try to prevent the next one.
The president will host a town meeting on the topic of gun violence this Thursday at George Mason University. Well, as you might expect, not everyone is on board with the president's plan. Republicans, for one, as well as the Maryland Small Arms Range in Upper Marlboro. The president's executive action targets in part gun dealers, requiring them to report all stolen or lost weapons to federal authorities. Gun seller Jack Donald says he's uncomfortable with any steps to restrict gun sales.
Type of thing I'm leery of, because I say, well, we need to make a first step to change things. Well, okay, if you make a first step, what is your next step? Or what is your final step? That's my question. What is that final step?
And Donald says he expects legal challenges to the president's action. Well, bring out the hats and gloves because you're going to need them the next few days. Wind chills were in the single digits all across the region this morning. What made it even worse was that piercing wind. The last 2 days have been the coldest we've seen so far this season, with highs only in the 30s. But some folks we've talked with today say they're enjoying all of this really cold weather.
I'm glad winter's here. That's all I can say. It's bright, it's sunny, and I feel like I'm back to home.
It's January?
Yeah, it's January, and I'm ready for some snow or whatever comes.
And speaking of cold weather, temps are expected to fall into the teens tonight, and the Warm Nights Hypothermia Shelter Program is reminding folks in Prince George's that you don't have to stay out on the cold. CTV's Sonia Shrivastava has more.
Well, these cold temperatures certainly have the Community Crisis Services members here in Hyattsville pretty busy now. I'm being joined now by the Executive Director, Tim Jansen. And Tim, you guys are doing a great job of helping those in our community who need a place to stay. Tell me about what people can do.
So the biggest thing is letting people know to give us a call if they're worried about somebody who's homeless or somebody who needs shelter. We work our best to make sure that folks have a warm night. We place people in a shelter so that they get a hot dinner and a warm breakfast and somewhere to stay through the cold weather temperatures. The goal of the Warm Night Shelter Program is to make sure nobody dies because of the elements and so that everybody has a warm night.
Yeah, and I was, you were telling me earlier that you really could not do this without the help of, our churches, because this is where some of these centers are. Well, absolutely. All of them are, right?
All of them, yeah, absolutely, all of them. It is the perfect storm in terms of a program between the faith-based community, the Prince George's County government, and our nonprofit. We have 45 faith-based organizations, churches, who house our homeless residents. They provide dinner and breakfast. They do lots of fun things too. They do game nights and movie nights and beauty nights. And
you were saying that this is the only shelter in the DC area that accepts children, right?
Yes, it's the only hypothermia shelter that accepts children and families in the DC metropolitan area. There are other jurisdictions who handle it in a different way, but Warm Nights allows families to stay together. We don't separate folks out, and if kids are homeless, you got to put them somewhere. So a lot of hypothermia shelters are men only. Ours is men, women, children, whoever might be homeless at that time, because everybody deserves someplace warm to sleep.
So tell me about this year. How many people are you able to accept? What should people do if they need help?
So if people need help, they call on the homeless hotline. Actually, the easier way to do it is to call 211. So you just dial 211 on your phone like you dial 411. and it gets you to a local center and let somebody know that you're homeless. We'll do a quick assessment, and if shelter is the appropriate referral, the appropriate need, we'll get you placed in somewhere close, or as close as we can.
And we are certainly expecting a cold night tonight. And like Tim said, if you need help out there, please don't take any chances. We're talking to our seniors, our veterans, and those folks out there, and, people with families. The number to call is 211, and it will directly connect you with a center in Hyattsville. I'm Sonia Shrivastava. Back to you in the studio.
And last year, the hypothermia shelter program provided more than 7,000 nights of assistance to the most vulnerable members of our community. Well, this morning's frigid temperatures make it a tough day to lose power, but that's what happened in Upper Marlboro at around 4 o'clock this morning. About 80 customers losing power and electricity. Officials say a power line fell down on Crane Highway, causing the outage. No one was injured. The county school employees who work at the Sasser Administration Building were also affected by the outage. Nearly all the power has been restored. Well, a former school board member fights eviction from the home she's lived in for the past 4 decades. Patricia Fletcher says the co-op Village Green Mutual Homes has been overcharging residents for years and is forcing occupants who complain.
My water bills run anywhere between $150 to $200, not every 3 months, a month. According to WSSC, when I read their gallon usage, I use enough water to fill 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools, according to this third-party billing company, and water left over. My house should be floating down Sheriff Road if I have a water leak. Now you need to keep in mind, Village Green says, oh, this is for the common area. That's why it's $114,000. When the tree people come and plant a tree, they use my water. We do not have a sprinkler system, and we do not have a swimming pool. So you tell me what common area you're using.
Fletcher also says a visually impaired resident was evicted last year under similar circumstances. A district court judge is holding a hearing on this case. Both parties will meet again on January 25th in Hyattsville.